So we know that the global colonization process was undergirded by this contingent known as the Rav Mag or the Rab Mag. And so essentially those who associate themselves with Babylon in one way or another are those who are identified as the colonizing agents. And the Rab Mag, as you should recall, are the priests, the magician class. And here you can see again at Strong 7248, the Rab Mag, or the chief of the Magi, the chief officer. And continuing on, it indicates that the Rab Mag or the Rav Mag are also understood as the chief soothsayers, and they were officials of the Babylonian king. Not only do you have Rav and Rab being associated with greatness, the construct of Mag or Mega is also associated with greatness. And when you look at the passage related to Mystery Babylon the Great, you see this Mag reference. Now, what has been noted based upon a transliteration observation is that there is significant interchange with these constructs of Rab and Mag, or Rav and Mag. And when you do the interchange and you flip Rab Mag around, what you have is Mag Rab. And notably, when you put Mag Rab together, you have the Maghrib. And so essentially, it goes from great magician or great sorcerer to sorcerer great, but it also suggests great when you flip that around. What's also noteworthy is that with the direct translation, Mag Rab is Morocco. And here you can see the translation coming out of the Arabic with the Mag Rab. Mag Rab in the Arabic goes into the Portuguese as Morocco's. And notably, when you do a direct translation out of the Arabic into the English with the Maghrib, what you have is Morocco. And so the translation of Maghrib from the Arabic into the English is directly Morocco. And as you are also likely aware, the Maghrib is in North Africa. Generally speaking, North Central Africa to Northwest Africa. And here you can see that additional interchange with the REB, RAB, and the RIB. Britannica indicates that Maghrib is the region of North Africa that also borders the Mediterranean Sea. It goes on to indicate the Africa Minor of the ancients at one time included Moorish Spain and now comprises essentially the Atlas Mountains and the coastal plains of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. A further analysis with the letter exchanges for Rab has revealed a number of dynamics. A number of names and words and places are associated with this Rab construct. And so we have Arab, Arabia, Europe, Jeroboam, Maghrib, Oreb, interestingly Popo, Rabat, Rabu, Rabbi, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Yoruba. And so all of these constructs are associated with this Babylonian construction of the Rab Mag. And what's also interesting is most of these identities are actually historically associated with Babylon. Finally, there are a few dynamics related to these entities with this Rob or Rav designation. One thing that stands out is that these entities were involved in a conspiratorial enterprise, a RICO type of enterprise together with the various slave trades that they were running along with other trade activities. And so collectively, they ran the trans-Saharan slave trade that then ended up being tied to the transatlantic slave trade. And so collectively, these entities were involved in not only the slave trades, but the colonizations that went along with the slave trades. And so some preceded the slave trades, and then some were along with the slave trade. And so this collective of entities, these ROBs, were integral to these massive efforts of resetting the world. And what's also noteworthy is that many of these entities appear to be associated with or identifying with the entity known as Ephraim in Scripture. And Ephraim was the son of Joseph, and he was also, in terms of ethnicity, a blend of Egyptian and Israelite. Another observation is that there is significant phenotype diversity related to these various collectives of people. And this phenotype diversity, along with these racial stratification and colorism stratification systems that they created, these systems allowed for the concealing of the connections between these entities. And it's highly likely that many of them, in terms of the leadership class, are actually related to each other, even though in terms of phenotype they look different. And so some look dark, some look light, and some look somewhere in between. Now, this also hints at the likelihood that when darker individuals were involved in these dynamics, that they were often hiding behind what would be considered a white face. And so that appears to be a part of the historical dynamic that has taken place that has created additional confusion about a number of things. And what's most fascinating is a number of entities that identify themselves as descendants of Shem. They might identify as being related to Abraham or Jacob. And many of these individuals, interestingly, when addressing something such as the fires in California, are very quick to identify God as the catalyst for the tragedies, to blame God for what is going on, ignoring the fact that the Babylon, to which they appear to be very closely associated, probably has a greater hand in the situation than God. Of course, that depends on what God we are talking about. And so with respect to this Great Babylon identity, the entity that appears to fit the bill most fits up under that Shem umbrella. And it appears that those who are somehow identified with Ephraim played a big part in this Great Babylon enterprise. What's noteworthy, however, is that when you look at the collectives of names, those entities serve as a diaspora. And so they are spread everywhere, doing what they have done historically. And so it made the colonization effort easier for them, the slave trading effort easier for them, because they appear to be a very connected confederation that, again, is quite dispersed. The other thing that stands out about the association with Ephraim is that Ephraim, that particular tribe, there are assertions that that tribe went into Europe and that that tribe served on the thrones of all of these sovereigns in Europe. And then you have the entities that are on the west coast of Africa also identifying with Ephraim. And so it looks pretty clear that with respect to this great Babylon, mysterious Babylon identity, that it really sits in Jacob's lap.